Hi, I'm Frances Katzen, and welcome to my podcast, The World of Real Estate. In this series, we will explore the world's largest asset class and how it plays out on a global scale. Joining me today is Yoel Shargian, the CEO of Elad U.S. Holdings Incorporated. With billions in assets, Elad is one of the nation's leading real estate companies responsible for the acquisition, development, and conversion of architecturally significant residential and commercial properties in key markets throughout North America. Boy, what I had to do to get you on the show today, you're a very private gentleman. I had to barter and sell a lot of real estate, more than I anticipated, to get you to agree to come on today. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much.
So we are now in an unprecedented time. So I literally am not able to even sit across from you. So you are in another room and I'm looking at a screen going, hi. So, which is why I'm waving through the screen. I'm going to start with a very basic question. Where did you grow up?
Interesting enough, living here in New York City, or building here in New York City, I grew up on a farm in Israel.
A kibbutz?
It's a moshav. It's a different way of living. It's private, unlike a kibbutz. So it's a privately owned lots and farm and land. So I grew up over there. It's a complete different life that I'm experiencing now.
Did you ever think you'd be on the other side of this?
Not in a million years.
Got it.
Yeah, not in a million years.
What brought you to the United States?
The story is really, for me, it's interesting because it's sort of something that I left behind and I wanted to pick it up again. I served in the army 4 years.
It's a requirement.
In Israel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a requirement. And I went to officer school. I did also beyond the 3 mandatory years. And most of my army life I spent in Lebanon, the famous Lebanon that everybody knows about. That was my so-called experience. And after 4 years in Israel, everyone that finished the army is basically just dying to take off and just do something else other than what my son did here, finish high school and almost immediately went to college. The Israeli route is take your backpack, leave, and come back a few years later. It took me 4 years to basically go around the world. I left east from Israel, and 4 years later I arrived from the west. So it was a long journey, and part of the journey was actually staying here in California for some time, and passing through New York, which fascinated me at the time.
Why?
It was, in a way, something different than everything I experienced in the Far East even. Even though Japan was alien nation, in a sense,
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't figure out what really is the motivation and what's going on. Here it felt almost immediately like home. It was something else. It welcomes you. And later I found out it's not that welcoming, but in first glance, it's fascinating and very inviting.
Yeah.
So
well
that
put.
was many, many years ago. And going back to Israel and studying, getting married, having kids, one day my boss in Israel told me, if you're willing to leave within the next 30 days, you have a job in New York. I did the impossible. I packed my life in 30 days, and I landed in New York on, brace yourself now, September 10, 2001.
Wow.
In the evening. That was my welcome to New York.
Oh my God.
It was
surreal.
Yeah. That was quite surreal, but I think in a sense it basically, when we woke up the next morning, I told my wife, welcome home. Because it felt like...
Lebanon.
Yeah, Lebanon and Israel. We left Israel right the day we left. There were 3 suicide bombers in Israel, one in Jerusalem, one in Tel Aviv, one in Haifa.
That's right.
And all my buddies were like, oh my God, it's so good for you. You're living now to New York, getting out. And I'm landing here. And
Jesus.
And it's hell broke loose. But I think it was a shock, that initial shock. But from that, I think emerged from that was something... that I saw the resilience of what people here in New York were demonstrating. It really reminded me home in a way, and that was part of what I said initially. It feels immediately something familiar. So that was a journey that started, 20 years ago.
That's quite an arrival. Wow, I did not know that. How did you get into real estate?
So it might be inappropriate, but it was also on the West Coast. I landed, I had $400 in my pocket. And I asked one of my friends, I really, really need to make some money. He says, look, I know you guys. I said, what do you mean you guys? I know you guys is like Israelis, Aussies, Irish. You come in, you fall in love with what we do here, and you're not going to quit. I said, no, it's going to be fine. So he was a ranger. He told me, you're taking a month off with me. We're going up the Sierra Nevada, and we're hiking and biking for a month. You have to know this area before you start working. So long story short, started working in construction just to make some money to continue the trip.
Love it.
Fell in love with it. It was quite an amazing adventure. And went back to Israel, studied engineering, and started actually working in Israel as not as an engineer. From day one, I started working in project management. I love the aspect of the design and overseeing the project. I'm an ADD, as you can see, and I couldn't sit still at a desk.
So hang on, you came to America, then you went back. How long were you there for with your family?
10 years.
Wow. Was it hard to go back after being here?
I went back knowing
Got it.
that I'll be
You'll
back.
be back.
I didn't know that it would take 10 years.
Every year you're like, we need to get there. We need to go back.
Right.
Where do you live now?
I live now in Tenafly, suburbia. It's a complete opposite of where we are now. But I think that's the tranquility and quiet that is needed in order to survive here in the city and the rat race that we're in.
Yeah.
So for me, it's a good transition every day from the hustle and bustle and suddenly deers roaming in the backyard.
Yeah.
It's different.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about your journey in real estate to today. Your current position as the CEO of Elad Group in New York City is not a small position, and it certainly isn't one for the meek. Can you give me a little bit of insight of how that came to be and your transition there? It's a hell of a pass from doing contracting and
right.
construction and management in Israel. Suddenly, boom, you're on.
Right. So I think starting even before the army, I was the youth movement, and then in the army as an officer, you're leading people, and that's really what inspired me. And I think in something in our industry that is really not much appreciated. We always think about brick and mortar, dollars and cents, and schedule. But I think it's a much bigger and broader picture than that. And I think we'll touch on that later of what really is real estate, because I think real estate is dreams, and that's really
100%.
what attracted me all the time, because the brick and mortar is really something that we can all feel and touch, and we call it real estate. But we are building and we are selling dreams all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So the transition was actually relatively easy, because from being a project management job, it's harnessing the people around you to believe in what you're doing. So it's whether it's one project, one small task. There is no real. You can't punish people to move faster. You have to get them to do it on their own. So if they manage to do it, and it's a journey that everybody enjoys, it's much more lucrative to everyone.
How did you learn that? That's a very big shift, because most people who run a project can't afford to have that luxury of thought.
Cooperation is, I think, and it's in the army like that. So in the army, you can never, ever force anyone to stand up in front of bullets and tell him, go to your possible death. He needs to know that he wants it. He needs to know that he want to do it for you. So, and I think in the same sense, it's in this environment as well. They want to do it for me. They care about me. They care about my business, and that's what really drives everything. Because if it was only purely for money, we see where it fails and breaks down. How many times can we repeat the same thing without really having fun?
Well said. Wow. The Elad Group is responsible for many, many successful condominium projects in New York City over the last decade or so, including 1 West End, 22 Central Park South, 5 Franklin Place, 250 West, the Plaza Residences, which was a huge conversion, among many others, and now 108 Leonard, my favorite. I'm going to ask questions you're not supposed to ask. Do you have a favorite?
It's actually very interesting. Preparing for that, I was looking at it to try to answer it really honestly. And I think it came down to
lessons learned.
Lesson learned. I think at 108, which is something that not a lot of people know the history of that building and really what's the origin of the building, who built it. I mean, we know about McKim and White, and we know all that. But if you dig deep down and you know how history shaped downtown with this famous team, it's really something very unique. And initially, when I came to the building, I wasn't aware of that, but it's kind of grew up on me. And today, and after seeing a lot of history buff, I think.
History buff.
Yeah. Looking at other projects and how they evolved, how they really, when they were tasked with a project, how they approached it. Seeing the project today and transformation that we took it through,
That is an unbelievable
and seeing it, something that strikes me all the time, and I think we see it, and it's connected to the dream, because initially we dream. We all see these walls, and we start dreaming and drawing and putting it all together. And when it comes together, and we see it, sometimes I'm shocked myself, because in the heat of the moment, we usually look at the detail and another detail and another detail. We see initially the big picture, but when we dive in and start working on the details, it's an enormous task. And sometimes people ask me, but it's just you design it and that's it. And I said, no, it's really
you live and breathe it.
It's something bigger than you ever imagine. So when a person goes and designs his own house, he spent enormous amount of time. So think about it, that a collective of 167 apartments, we as a team had to sit down and really think in the head of the buyer. What is going to really make it very unique for him? How is he going to use it? What happens in the morning? What happens in the evening? What happens when he wants to cook? How much storage they want? How do they want it? When we look back and you ask me this question, is how involved I am? Sometimes I think it's beyond involvement. It's like you said, it's living and breathing it, and we see it all the time when I lose, and I blame myself when I lose the attention. And I saw it I'll confess now, in few apartments when I think I wasn't that involved. It's not coming out the same way, and it's funny that we look at it, but. And I started with brick and mortar because it's a kitchen, it's the same faucet, it's the same doors, it's the same everything. But if the picture is not right when you come in and all the details fall in place, and I call it sometimes the harmony, when you come in and you feel welcome in that place, that's really when it strikes you. And we see today, one of the satisfaction I think in this business is, and it's something that I look at, and my wife asked me, why are you so excited all the time? I said, look, I'm in a business where I dream. My owner let me have a big checkbook and start having a dream. With that big checkbook, I start executing my dream. And later on in life, people come in and with the most single biggest transaction in their life, they're voting with their checkbook for my dream. There is nothing that can surpass that, because they actually, what I created. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's funny, but it's, looking at it is, you dream, you build it, you sell it. And I think sometimes I'm passing by buildings that I've done, and I know actually most people don't really have an idea of how much sweat and brain damage went into it. But the satisfaction of seeing a live building, means that when I see it 5-10 years later and they didn't change, that's, I think, the satisfaction. They loved it and they voted for it, and they're using it. When you see that they're starting to change everything, you know that you missed it completely.
Well, they haven't changed it.
Not a bit.
Not a bit. It's a classic. I mean, you said to me once, I don't just do this for the money. I remember you said that to me once, and I watched you take on every detail painstakingly, and I thought that's passion. That's someone who really loves what they do. And that's the difference. How has the dramatic increase in cost of land and build-out over the last 15 years shifted Elad and your mindset on development in New York City, if at all?
I think over the past, it's actually 20 years. When I look back 20 years ago, and I think back then it was, we still call it the cookie cutters. It was really basic. It was basic, and it was
formulaic.
And I think the approach was also, and that's what I'm going back to what I said when I saw the what we've done back in the days when I was a little bit younger and not that experienced. I was shocked to see that people actually came in, took the apartment, broke it down, and redid it all together. And at that point, I realized that I have to do something else. It just doesn't make sense that after all the work and energy that we did, we have to do it differently. And I think in the marketplace, and I see it even today, success is in the details. It's
100%.
It's not how much money you spend, but the details and the quality of the detail and quality of design. So yes, it's inherently, it's true that in some cases, it's important to spend the money, but in most cases, the way I see it at least, when you see the end product, you don't really ask how much money was spent on it or how much the stone cost. If it all works and it all really reads right, that's what makes it quality. If it's the most expensive stone and it's done not design-wise the right way, it doesn't matter at that point if it's expensive. It
just feels cheap, just looks bad. I mean, they spend these expensive woods all the time and they look dated. You know, I always feel like the less is more routine is so much better, you know? These tiger woods and zebra woods and then you look at them, God, they're so ugly 5 years later, you know?
Right. So classic and clean, I think. And over the years, maybe it's me or the open concept of kitchen, living room.
I love that.
It's something that that's how I like my life to be. A very interesting story, and I bought a land in Tenafly, and I wanted to build my house. I take the local architect, and I tell him what I want, and I say, so I want the kitchen, the dining room, and the living room to be just one giant hall. He looks at me and says, no, you can't do that. I said, what do you mean? He says, let me give you what I think. So he started designing it, show me the drawings, and I look at it and I said, but you made here a wall. I don't want that wall. So I think for 2 months we were like arguing, and he was insisting that that's not the right way. I said, I think you're misreading me, and I think it's time that we part ways. I took one of the... he's also local for many years, but he's an Israeli. And I told him, this is my dream and this is what I want. He says, 100%, I got you. And he designed it. And my ground floor that is close to 2,500 square feet has one side door, one front door, one door for my library, and one door for the bathroom. That's it.
Wow.
Everything else is open. But it's and I hosted my house close to 100 people sometime. And it's the greatest feeling of really having life, not in room closed, but everything is lit. Yeah, collectively, it's living together. And even if my kids are sitting in the other side of the room and studying, you're still seeing each other. And
I love that.
So I think
Where does that come from, that wish to keep it all connected? Is it just from growing up in Israel? Is it from...
I grew up in a farm. Everything is open.
Yeah.
We live in Israel when the doors to the outside are constantly open. So your backyard is part of your house.
Yeah.
You sit outside a lot.
Same as Australia.
It's like California and like Florida in a sense.
Yeah.
So I think over the years it grew up on people here, and we see it on most of our projects. That's the way we designed it. And very few projects we did it that the kitchen is really closed. And usually we used to do it on really big penthouses where formality is a little bit more needed.
Yeah.
But it worked very, I think with the clientele that we're having today, they fall in love with it.
So with that in mind, I mean, we're also seeing a change in the buyers, right? In today's market, buyers don't begin following a project until there is a shovel in the ground or a tower rising out above the street. On average, how long does it take to get to that point from your initial involvement? And what are some of the behind-the-curtain things that are going on between those 2 points in time?
It's a long process.
I know.
I think one of the key things that we usually trying to hit on day one is not looking at the market today, but looking in the market. We don't have the crystal ball, but trends and viability is something that we're looking at and analyzing it. And as a CEO and I was always driving, not being conservative, but looking at the market a little bit different than everyone else. So when we're looking at the market, I called it affordable luxury. So creating something that is very unique. And when I say affordable luxury, is allowing you to really participate in the high-stake market of really luxury market, but in a much affordable prices. And we managed to do it, I think, in both design process, which is very fast pace. So usually when you're asking me, it takes a long time. So I'll give you an example. One West End. One West End was 1 million square feet, and to design 1 million square feet and to procure it and do everything takes time. So I took the approach there of basically designing the basics of the building and start foundation like within 6 months from the time that we bought it. So otherwise project like this can take 5-6 years between initiation and completion. So during that time that the process started in the field, we are sitting and basically designing the building and starting to really put the project together from initiation. That was just few scribbling on a board and saying this is how it's going to look and what we're attempting to do, to a final product. Yeah, to a final product that is
stunning.
Stunning, and it's painstaking to think about. Basically, when you look at it, we as a team, and I say we because it's not just me, it's a lot of people that collaborate in this. The drawing is actually the transformation of the brainwave that we have. We illustrate it on the drawing. We hand this over to these guys in the field, and everything we had a dream, we thought about, this is how we want it to look. They have to basically put it together. And it's it's a very, very complex, but still, if it works right, collaboration is unique.
But it's so interesting because you know, ground up new construction is the total antithesis of pre-war conversion. Pre-war conversion, I would say, is probably more tricky, right? You have to work within the shell. You can't manipulate because you've got all of this built-in stuff.
Yeah, the straitjacket, I call it.
Yeah.
It's really like, but then I think in a straitjacket like this, usually really, if you think and if you allow yourself to do it a little bit different, some magnificent
there's
product.
no question. There's no question.
Because it's really, you really have to put your mind into it and really make it work. And in the process of 108, it was painstaking, and we've done it again and again and again, and redo it until it really works. And sometimes when I looked at the team and I said, they're out of their mind. They are not satisfied with anything until it's perfect. And it reminds me because like a couple of days ago, I was sitting in the sales office looking at the kitchen, and I was stunned to see it looks perfect. And to think about it, because I know how long it took that specific unit, how long it took to really put it together, and how many changes the team demanded to do. When at one point I said, enough, just let it go. No, we have to, and it's John, it's you, it's the whole team that looked at it again and again, and they come back after a week. We thought about this and this and this, and we really think we need to do it. Sometimes I was mad, but I think I accepted the fact that if you care so much, it's going to show itself. And it showed itself now.
It really has been one of the most beautiful projects I've ever worked on. If not the question, you still haven't answered the question. You dodged it.
Yeah. So,
if you don't want to answer, you don't have to. But
yeah,
I
think I have pain. It's mostly pain with every building that I do.
Really?
It's a lot. It takes a lot out of me.
And you still go back for more,
Yeah.
you sick puppy.
Yeah.
What drives you?
I think what I said initially, the fact that I can dream. And put it together, and I have not just people say, oh, yeah, it's nice. I can dream, execute it, and people are coming in and betting their life.
Totally.
And putting all their life savings,
all their money,
all their money on it.
Talk about knowing how to enroll people.
Right. So yeah, it's a creation of something that is appreciated again and again and again.
I've worked with many developers, and one of the things that I noticed with you, which I thought was quite frankly rare, and one of the reasons why it's been, I think, quite enjoyable for me as a broker, is you are involved in the design process with the architect, the designer and the project, from the exterior design to the floor plans to the finishes. Sometimes I notice that developers sort of look at it at the final stage and sign off on it, but not really dealing with the granular minutiae around it. And that was one of the most cathartic things that I noticed in this outcome. And I think when you just said, I looked at the kitchen and it was perfect, I think that came from your wanting to achieve a level of perfection that maybe not everybody is driven by with the dream, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that result is why Elad has sustained its curb appeal and global bid for people to come in and want to put their hard-earned cash down time and time and time again. I mean, 250 West blew me away. 5 Franklin was the total antithesis of that. And then you went right back into a McKim Mead and White, 167 different floor plans, 16.9-foot ceilings. Oh, and by the way, we're going to restore the brass dental molding over 20,000 square feet, So there's more, it's the dream and it's the passion, and I haven't seen that to date in much. So, as a developer, do you find it difficult when you enroll with people who are not of the same discipline, I guess? Is that tough to find?
I think we choose. I mean, as a developer, I choose the people around me.
Yeah, it makes a big difference.
Right.
Yeah.
So between the design team, Jeffrey Beers.
He's amazing.
And D-Box and Douglas Elliman and John.
Yeah, John's amazing.
And the whole team that we assembled. It was sometime 5-6 hours of really having fun. So the end result is really...
it was fun. It has been fun.
Right. It's really good, and it's not just
cranking
drawings.
It. Yeah. Jeffrey Beers, to me, is such a perfect selection for such a big project, in that he has a reverence in his design, and you see it. It's like this, he's not trying to overstep his bounds, but rather bring it up into the modern part of the world. And yet it acknowledges, the fact that I remember him explaining to me that he matched the paint color of the facade with the cabinets. Everything was so intentional. Can you explain how that collaboration came together?
My first interaction with Jeffrey Beers was, I would say 10 years ago. I think 10 years ago or more. At the Plaza, at one point, we decided that we need to do something else with the underground commercial that we have. And
that food court, right?
Right. Mm-hmm. And we solicited, I think, 3 or 4 bids for design. And Jeffrey Beers was one of them. He was a hotel and restaurant designer.
Mm-hmm. Jean-Georges von Richten, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Jeffrey comes in and he says, "This is the dream that I have for this place." And he had a hand sketch, colored hand sketch.
Love it.
For the space. And within minutes, I think, we decided that this is it. And what was shocking to me, like 6 months later, the drawing that he did was 1-to-1 what we built. It was
verbatim.
Yes. Everything that he had on paper day one, we
delivered. Right.
So that caught my eye, that someone that can actually, and this was a design that was so much different than anything that I knew before that. Because before that, it was really a bunch of lines and boxes and everything else that I see from designer. And suddenly a designer that comes in, and he needed to do every station. It was every station over there was different. Everything had a different look. You come into a space and there is some flow into it, but everywhere you look is completely different. But somehow everything is weaved together.
It's beautiful.
So fast forward, I actually took him and I started pushing him to help me with the design of my house, which he did. And going even further, when we started working on One West End, I came with a crazy idea that I want to take Jeffrey Beers to design a building. And it was 1 million square feet of a designer that never did
in residential in
his life.
That's ballsy.
I knew from the get-go that there is something different and unique with the firm, and especially with Jeffrey, that he can execute it better than anyone else. And of course, it was really, really tough because they didn't know really, the team didn't really know all the details of construction in New York in terms of residential. But with a good architect and design team to back him, he executed. And you said something very interesting, because the way Jeffrey described it when we started working on the project was from curbside to pillow. And I think that's really sums it up all from the moment you look at the building and you're at the curbside, all the way through to the last thing that you do at night, put your head down on the pillow. And that's really like a journey of yourself through the building during the day and until you close your eyes. So when he said that he's matching
the paint color of the
paint
facade.
color, it's I think it's a more of illustration of
his thoughtful.
how he thinks about design rather than, as I said, it's boxes. He weaves it together, and that's what I loved about him. The transition, in one way, I think is illustrates when you go in. The illustration of that, it's a 130-year-old building.
Yeah.
Very unique ornament, a lot of stone, high ceilings, rounded windows. And we've seen enough of buildings that either didn't respect or went back 100 years, and it didn't work.
Yeah.
And Jeffrey did, and one of the things that every time that I come to the building, and looking at the front desk, in the middle of this 130-year-old lobby, a rounded stainless steel egg that sits there. It's shocking
fabulous.
And it's amazing.
It is. It takes such a total paradigm of these two. I know he does it. It's really beautiful to watch. What do you personally find the most rewarding about the development process? I mean, I think you've touched upon it, but I'm going to ask it again.
I think I said it before, when we dream, when the team is sitting and dreaming it, and when I stand in front of it after all the pain and everything we went through, and thinking about what it took to the journey when it started until we're standing in front of the end product. That's a satisfaction. Knowing how many people, when I did my engineering, we went through the process of counting how many actions, just in the construction itself, of a family home, actions that are needed in order to construct it. It's 2,500 actions that are needed, different actions, not call it putting a screw together. And that's, I think, what is amazing. Putting it all together, having people that never sat with you when you was dreaming the dream, and they're putting it together. It's amazing.
You really love what you do. What are one of the two biggest lessons you've learned about the business since you've been in real estate?
Wow.
We got more than two.
Yeah.
That's a big one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a big one. It's a big one, and I think it's an easy one in two ways. Being honest to yourself with what you do is a key, and not falling for the trap of inflating reality. And second thing is what we see time and time again, I think, and Corona kind of taught us a really good lesson is that quality, or I would call it authenticity, is the key to really success. When you're authentic and you manage to put it on the table for people to see, they buy it. They buy it. They know that it's true. It's not a fluid dream. It's reality for them, and it's something that is grounded. And they'll vote for it despite, and we saw it, and you're part of it. The success of in the marketplace, despite what's happening with the corona, I think that's a key testament to how we overcome this obstacles.
I think when COVID-19 went into effect and we were now on lockdown, I think we were one of only 2 trades that the Ocean Report wrote about that happened with a bidding war, remember, on 15C? Mm-hmm. And nobody believed us. They thought, oh, bollocks. You're just saying that. Of course, it's always a good time to buy, Fran. And it really was true. And I thought that was the moment where you sort of weed out the junk from the trophy stuff. And nobody was getting inquiries. We were still getting people who were promising us the moon, sun, and stars if they could just get in. And I just thought that was so interesting. People were still willing to part with cash during a pandemic. It was fascinating.
I was shocked. I was shocked because I'm doing it, and I'm talking to my boss, and I'm telling him, you won't believe it. The city is shut down. There is no one in the street, and you're still generating deals.
Now, talking about that boss, does he understand how much you've created and done on the ground over here, or is it still never good enough? I'm just saying, the Israeli way is to just keep you hungry, keep you running.
Yeah, right.
Never give it to them.
That's a tricky question.
He's like, let's not go there.
Right. No, but I think one of the testaments to what we've done, it's when I finished One West End, he actually bought an apartment over there.
Well, there you go.
And he never changed anything in that unit. So he loved it. And he came and said...
What a compliment.
Right. He said he was like, there is actually nothing here. And it started actually differently. He walked into one unit, I want this one. And then he said, what's over there? He looked at it. You know what? I like this one better. He was about to move to the unit. And the day that the movers were there, he said, but wait a second. This unit is still not sold. I said, yes, what? He says, let me have a look at it. Oh, this is much better now. I had to actually stop the movers and move him to the third unit that he picked, because all of them he fell in love with each and every one of them. And for me, it was, despite the fact that it was a pain, it was really a testament to even him, that, like you said, he's never happy with
But it's that keep them hungry kind of thing. But my question is, how did that relationship become so trusting? Because that's a lot of trust. To say, here's my checkbook, get it done, keep it in line, keep it on budget, and keep it in time. I don't think that's an easy pillow rest at night.
Right. I'm working with my boss for 22 years.
Oh, wow.
So
okay.
That's
a long time.
That's a long time where he's actually gave me a lot of
leeway,
freedom.
You earned that, I guess.
To do it my way and deliver. The proof is actually that we're actually delivering.
You have a star-studded team working on the project, inclusive of Jeffrey Beers International, Slice Architects, Douglas Elliman, D-Box, and more. Can you tell us a little bit about the culmination of this talented group, and how did all the pieces strategically fall into place?
We touched it on it. I think collecting this, I think people and over time, I won't mention names, but over time, some of the team members were weeded out, and the team that actually loves it, really wants to do it, and not just go through it, stayed. And each and every one of them really contributed a lot. When I say a lot is, sometimes I'm shocked to see, and I'm looking back at it every time, and I'm shocked from the amount of time that the team sometimes spend on the marketing, the renderings, the design, picking up small details, going through it. And that's, I think, what the assemblage of these people between Jeffrey Slice, Beers, and Jeffrey and D-Box and Douglas Elliman, which it's a collaboration of a lot of people from a different point of view that created. And you remember, we had our arguments over time, but I think...
Just a few.
Yeah. But I think I learned my lesson over the years. When a team that has experience and proved itself is giving me an advice, I usually need to take it. Because one thing I always say, I really, I don't know that much. I rely mostly of people that I trust and they trust me to give me the best advice. And that's my motto. I don't really know that much, and I need all these people to do the work with me.
I think also, just to extend on that point, I think really good CEOs or chairmen or leaders are people who can actually not get egoic when things are maybe out of their depth in one or just not particularly versed, and can actually let go of control and allow those people to help guide it. And I think I haven't seen a lot of that. And you were one of the first developers that I noticed that at the top of their game was saying, okay, I'll adjust that. Most of the time, I think it's about not looking weak or looking wrong, which has cost them gravely in the eventual trade of the project. Seriously.
Yeah.
You know,
I can see that.
They're younger, they're hungrier developers, they've got it right. And you're watching them blow themselves up, and you're trying so hard to advocate for them, but it becomes a power struggle. And then you just sort of say, okay, let them blow themselves up. You know, it's hard to watch. I was amazed by how humble you were about it. You'd say, you know what? Okay, let's change it. I remember the floor plan on that penthouse. You're like, let's invert it. Let's change it.
Right.
That
was when you guys proved to me that our thought process initially was not really there. And looking at what you created again.
Well, it was a team, but It was definitely appreciative that you were open to it. Most developers probably wouldn't have. For those of you who are listening, when you are dealing with 20 million plus penthouses and you tell a developer, you know what, maybe we should put the bedrooms on the other level, most would say, please go home. You're not welcome at the meeting anymore. But that was not the case. And in this instance, it actually, I think we dodged a huge bullet, and I think it's proved to be much more advantageous for the sale. But there we go. You know, I think that was very telling about you as a leader, to be honest. I think that, for me, was mind-blowing. I was so impressed by that. Boy, it sounds really weird that I'm saying all of this, but it's really true for me. What were some of the biggest challenges when redeveloping 108 Leonard, and how did you overcome them? Because I know that we had a lot of legal issues around a live working monument in conjunction with the first ever McKim Mead and White conversion to residential. I mean, this had a lot of hair on it.
Right.
That's a lot of love for a building to take that on. Seriously, many had tried and had failed.
So one of the, and the owner asked me once, what are you going to do? First thing that you're going to do, I said, I have to study this building and know what was in the builder's mind when he built it, how exactly he built it, what was going in his mind, because that's the only way for me to really reshape it in a way without taking it down, in a sense. Because it's a 130 years old building and completely different technique of building back then.
Completely. I mean, it's cost prohibitive now to even try to build like that.
Right.
This is a masonry masterpiece. You walk into this building, it's got, these steps have been worn. It's like walking through a Roman palace. You know, you walk through these steps and they're worn from 130 years ago. It's crazy history. I found an invoice for mutton. You know, I put it on social media. I couldn't believe it. I found an invoice for mutton. Yeah. Sorry.
So studying the building and knowing how exactly it was built was one of the key elements for me to drive the team to actually, for instance, going through the facade and sounding the facade.
What does that mean?
Sounding the facade. So the facade is sitting there for the last 30 years. No one took care of it. And now I come in and I have to figure out what's wrong with this building. So usually it's being done by just scoping it with the binoculars.
A scope. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I said, no, you guys are going to go and you're going to sound. And it's basically a small hammer that they tap on the stone to find out if it's hollow, if it's
corroded,
broken, whatever it is. And I asked them to do it on every stone in the building.
They must have loved you.
Yeah. But it allowed me actually to go back and rebuild the facade and know what we know today, how to redo everything, where we have to really be careful and reconstruct really the facade and put it all together as not as brand new as it was 130 years ago, but putting it together that brings its really respect and glory that it used to have. And it shows now.
So does. Did you find a lot of the rock was not healthy, just out of curiosity? Or was it just so beautifully retained because it was such a good caliber build-out?
So I think so in this I challenge my team all the time. So I went to Italy, I think it was the Colosseum. And I'm looking at the Colosseum. Wow. And I took a picture of one of the walls that is sitting outside for more than 2,000 years, right? It has this stucco, and it's sitting there. And I'm sending to my engineers, and I say, I really want to understand how 2,000 years ago they managed to figure out how to build it, leave it to the elements, and 2,000 years later I come in and it looks as brand new. So it shows me only what we really don't know. And that's, I think, we really don't know as much as we want to think about that. We don't really know everything. And working on buildings, I think people in the past understood that it's a breathing and living element, and it's not just brick and mortar.
No, it's not.
So allowing it to, and we know a little bit more today, allowing it to breathe, to have the moisture evaporate through the cracks, and let the building actually breathe through his life.
I love that visual, by the way. That's right. Quite a visual.
So that's, I think, something that took a lot from the team. And I think even your team went and basically took pictures of every single bay, every window.
Yes, they did.
Every
ceiling height.
The
book was extensive.
Right.
It was
brilliant. It took a lot to put it together, and
it's what helped sell us.
Right.
I mean, so we could sit at a sales table and say, well, I don't know what it looks like. And I'm like, well, here is a man standing next to this window. You can see the ceiling height. Look at the contact. I mean, that's how we sold.
Right. That was, for me, amazing that the team did that on his own, went ahead and did that, and it's extensive. And it shows also, again, when I get people to do it on their own, I get 10 times more than I usually get.
But that's a gift. I don't think most people realize that punitive management skill ain't going to happen, ain't going to drive passion. A lot to think about on that one. 108 Leonard offers residents a private escape from its surroundings. It's sort of its own type of environment with amenities, such as rooftop gardens, cabana lounges, dining areas, a pergola, fireplace, 75-foot swimming pool, wine cellar, private dining gym. All of these amenities seem to have a wellness component to them, which is very relevant in today's society. What was your process behind cultivating the amenity package?
I think one of the key elements in design, and I start all the time, we're creating a dream for 167 families. So I usually think about it as a community rather than just a building. Mm-hmm. So in a community like that, it's in today's COVID environment, of course, it's a little bit different and tricky. But let's go past this year, because we want to erase this year anyway.
Yes,
but
please.
I think creating this environment where people, so you have this building, 1-bedroom unit owners, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom. And usually in life, when living in this city, you want to have this escape from these 4 walls that are closing on you. And that's my imagination. So how do you do that? So rather than spend time scouting the city to have your swimming pool lesson or having your gym or having your park, and I think this is the 3rd building that I'm doing it this way, we're creating now the full experience, and the size of the buildings allows us to do it. But I think over time, I evolved with it, and I created much more than 20 years ago. Right, we had the gym, kids' room, blah, blah,
rooftop,
blah.
and we're done.
And we're done. And I think that's the evolution of what we as developers and the market.
Yeah. The demand for destination living, all in one.
Yeah.
Billiard room, cinema, private dining, larger dining room. Mm-hmm.
So you bought in a building that, and that's, I think, part of what we think about it. It's we build it and we sell it 167 times.
Yeah.
That's really what we're doing. We sell that piece of
Quite
property 167 times. You own it, and you own it, and you own it, and they do. They actually.
It makes me very tired hearing you say that.
Oh, we sold a lot, so you have to be proud of that. But that's I think the power in it. It's people share it, and one of the key elements that usually I come in usually to the first board meeting of the residents, and I tell them, you have to imagine now that I no longer exist, and this is yours, and you have to start to actually not look at the sponsor, but
take ownership.
Take ownership. Mm-hmm. This is yours. We've done whatever we thought is right, and you have to form your committees. And in the few times that I did it, people came to me and said, so wait a second, this is ours. I said, yes, this is yours. This is really yours. I'm only the sponsor that put it together, and you all bought it. And metaphorically, they usually don't think this way, but once they realize that it's theirs, they actually take ownership and start. Because usually they come to me, we want to do a program, this and this. I said,
it's really simple. I'm off.
Right.
I'm off duty. Off you go.
This is yours.
Here are the keys.
Right. You have to decide now what's good for you and
make the rules.
Yep.
So the media is always sizing up trophy penthouses. And, what is it that you think sets these crown jewels apart? I mean, if I may just chime in, I've dealt with a lot of good, big, beautiful, amazing penthouses, and I would have to say that these penthouses are unbelievable. So in your opinion, what do you think sets these crown jewels apart?
It's a tricky question. Because what I learned over time is, and it goes again, it's I call it the human scale. I learned that just making it giant is not going to make it unique. The human scale, and people usually look at it because in the end of the day, we occupy a very small space. And when you put people in a giant space, it's not really complementary. So creating a trophy is, the feature needs to be really unique. And so 108, for instance, it was really kind of easy in a sense. The cupola that is unique feature in this building, or the clock tower, it allows us to really harness the history and unique qualities of the building, and basically each one of the penthouses in a way owns a piece of history. And that's really what set it apart from anything else, because to create just a giant penthouse is not anymore it.
No.
It needs to be that quality that surpass everything else. And when it's a little bit dramatic, but you own a piece of history.
You do. You're buying a piece that'll never be made again.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what makes it, I think that's exactly what separates it now. Something that can never be replicated. What other projects are you working on?
We're now, and it ties to your New York saga, we're now actually in Florida, in Boca Raton, completing a project that we started a year and a half ago.
Wow.
And
you must be doing well now, because Florida's booming.
So it's interesting, but I think my and it goes back to design. So I go down and I sit with the design team and the marketing, and we're designing the apartments, and I look at the size of the apartment and I said, impossible. I said, what do you mean impossible? I said, guys, it's 1,800 square foot, one bedroom. Are you out of your mind? And I start looking at it, and I think it took them a lot of convincing to show me that, and that ties back to what I said from the get-go. I don't really know everything. I have to learn from my team and trust them. And it proved itself, of course, that what I told you initially about the amenities, how we grow them. On this project, the amenity package that we created, and it's surpassing everything. And people are mesmerized by it, because it allows them to, in Florida, to move to a condominium without losing the private home experience. And they have few swimming pools that they can choose to go to. They have a roof garden that is close to 4 acres. It's really something else.
Wow.
And I think that's what allows me to really sell this dream. So you don't have to do what you've done until today. Make sure that the gardener is doing his job, and the plumber came how to fix. You have everything taken care of, mm-hmm. and you can actually enjoy life. And that's what these people actually voting. It's unique. It's unique, and we like it.
Is there a specific neighborhood in New York City where you've always wanted to do a project, and if so, which one and why?
So I've done few of them, and I think the neighborhood that attract me the most is Tribeca. Especially because it's...
I think you just answered the question, by the way. Yeah.
It's either 250 West or 108.
Yeah.
They're all historic buildings that I can transform without changing them too much.
Yeah. I remember coming to the opening for the Plaza. I'll never forget that big event. It's incredible. So it is Tribeca. So you've accomplished it. Okay. Are you currently in acquisition mode in New York City?
We're starting again to look at New York. New York is stressed now. But...
You're like, I'm going to be on a boat having a holiday.
I think in every... it lends itself to opportunities now. So we are looking at it. And again, it's...
Will you really do it?
Yeah.
Well, cool. How has COVID-19 altered your thinking about development? Has it created any opportunities for you? I mean, obviously that goes hand in hand with the opportunity of land now in New York, but...
So I think it's... I think New York is stronger than anyone. Stronger than me, stronger...
Yeah, I agree.
The political environment stronger than anything. And New York survived these cycles over the years. And I think it's... humans usually have the tendency to try to forget as soon as possible.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we're all going to do in the next year or two. It's just time is going to make it different. And I think it's just a great time for whoever thinks long-term is going to...
reap the rewards.
Yep.
There's no question. People are definitely taking advantage. So what's your prediction for 2021 and 2020? Well, we're ending it now. What do you think New York will look like on a national scale now?
I think there is a lot of rejuvenation that is going to happen here. COVID just accelerated a lot of the inevitable.
Agreed.
And it was bound to happen. Commercial and office and everything else that we're experiencing now, it's going to change. How?
I think it accelerated it for no question. It's sort of the sellers are now having to capitulate and kind of get in line with this new norm.
Right.
Agreed.
So that's my prediction. It just created a mindset for all of us. Something got to change. And it's happening whether we like it or not.
100%.
It's happening.
I want to say a big thank you for finally coming on the show and doing this with me. You're one of the most private people I know. I couldn't find very much information other than my experience of us working together. So thank you for taking the time to do this. It's been great.